Welcome to the Wellness Amazon podcast. This is a podcast for highly sensitive people, people that have high intuition and are just in tune with themselves and the outer world. Come and listen to multiple different high spectrum subjects and just peek behind the curtain. But I warn you, once you peek behind the curtain, you can never go back. Have fun. Enjoy. Welcome, everybody, to a new episode of the Wellness Amazon podcast. Today might be the day that you want to take out a notebook and a pen because you might want to take notes with this one. We have a very special guest today. Super honored that she takes time out of her day to come here on the show. Her name is Jenn Horton, and she is a psychotherapist. She is specialized in community education and shadow IT, which is, I know, right? Ooh. The fun thing is she knows how to blend the power of fun, activity, and collaboration to get people the changes that they want to see faster. And what we're going to talk about today, again, big subject, is to get unstuck, how to get unstuck from pretty much anything. And a little while ago, I had Aaliyah on the show. We talked about surrender and how to be in the flow. Well, if that left you a little frazzled, here is the perfect episode for you because Jenn is a magician when it comes to making these very big, energetic, emotional subjects and turning them into something that is tangible and earthly. Earthly things to do is what I like to call them, right? It's like, yeah, okay, great. You're talking about this big thing, but what am I supposed to do with that? How can I fix it, kind of, right? And Jenn is here today to do exactly that and break it down for us. Welcome, Jenn. Very excited you're here.
Thank you so much. It's exciting to be here.
So tell us a little bit about, before we dive completely in, because I'm going to link everything on the show notes, what we're talking about, all the things that, so people can go back and maybe even like print or whatever they need to do. And your website is called Doll Made Daring, right?
Yes.
When someone comes to you, how do you work with them? What do you usually do?
The first thing I do is find out what they love. Because if we can't link what you want to do to what you love, then you're not going to do it.
Uh-huh.
I mean, let's just be honest. I don't know how many times in the past, I'll use myself as an example here. How many times did I try to exercise so that I could be stronger? But I kept doing what everyone else was doing and what everyone said I needed to do rather than finding out what I really, really loved, which is lifting really heavy stuff. Yeah. So now I'm out here, I'm not doing what everyone else is doing, but I'm actually doing something I enjoy. I'm sticking to it. My mental health is better. My physical health is better, right? So same thing applies to any of us. We need to know what we love because that's what gives us energy. And that's what we're talking about today is energy and energy flows. And so I need to figure out from the get-go with someone what's pouring back into them. I think people talk about pouring back into the cup all the time. I love the metaphor, but I want you to imagine that everyone's cup is poked full of holes. And that's not because you're defective. That's not because there's anything wrong with you. It's because there's something very right with you. You have energy so that you can use it. Yeah. If you're blocked off and not using energy, then you're not even laying in bed somewhere. You're no longer on this planet. You have to use energy. It's there to use. And so it's always kind of leaking out in different directions all the time. And the goal is not to stop that. The goal is to learn how to craft that, to direct that.
Yeah. You said that beautifully, to craft that. Mm-hmm. And listeners who are, because some people, when they hear us talking about this, they're like, yeah. And some people are like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I think feeling stuck can go, especially when we talk about stuck energy, let's talk about what that looks like, right? So to me, I'm very in tune with my body after years and years of working on my intuition and my awareness. Sometimes I can feel things stuck in my body. And I'm not talking about like that I'm constipated or anything. I'm not talking about that.
Got you. Got you.
But energy stuck. Like there's
Mhm.
something not flowing. Um or stuck in a situation where you want to, I don't know, you have a goal, you just can't get there and you keep repeating the same stuff and you're like, why do I do that, you know? So what is something that you see a lot when we say stuck?
Where I see stuck most often, whether I'm looking at someone as a patient that I'm treating or whether I'm working with a client in a non-clinical setting, biggest way I see it is overthinking. When people are spinning around in circles in their mind, that tells me that the energy is trapped in a space and is not having a way to flow and escape. And unfortunately, there are plenty of us intellectualizers out there, I'll raise my hand, who put a lot of value on their thoughts. And it's not that thoughts aren't good things that we can use. However, there are many, as you mentioned, different aspects of our bodies, of our minds, of our spirits, and our thinking is not the king of all things. It's just a part, a piece of everything that's supposed to be working together. And so when I see people trapped in this domain of thinking and then being cut off from body, being cut off from other things within themselves, I know they're stuck. And oftentimes, if I name stuck, they will align and say that resonates with them, but not all the time. That's why I often throw in the word frustrated, because sometimes it's this emotion of frustration of just, maybe not feeling stuck, but just feeling overwhelmed. And the overwhelmed can become a major part of it because when we're stuck, if you imagine a dam being built, well, what's going to happen eventually? The dam's going to break and we're going to flood. And whether that's an emotional flooding that happens or whether it's a flooding of rapid thinking and thoughts that keep you up at night, or whether that's a flooding in your body where you feel like a restlessness that just won't let you sleep or won't let you get work done. If you're someone, because I know you've talked a lot about highly sensitive people, if you're highly sensitive or if you have something like ADHD, there are many other places where this can be detrimental to you when you have blocks. So, looking at energy blocks is important, regardless of the type of block that it is. And I don't want people to get hung up on, well, I have to know the type of block. No, 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 no. You don't have to know that. You just need to recognize, oh, okay, this is one of those blocks that they're talking about.
Yeah. Well, because chances are usually there's blocks don't come alone, right? They like to show
No,
up together in groups.
they make a big wall.
uh, and it's so great because we talked in the other episode about flowing and surrendering. Exactly that same analogy came up with the dam. It was like you can't
Okay. Oh, I
stop.
love that. I
Yeah.
love that.
Aaliyah said the exact same thing. You cannot stop the water from flowing. It's going to be a catastrophe. And that reminds me of that. And all right. So if I overthink, I feel stuck, I feel frustrated, something ain't right, what do I do? What's next?
The first thing that I want to do with people, and then I want them to do for themselves if they're not working with someone, although I think that's a good idea to work with someone, is assess what's happening rather than just leaning into all of the emotion or all of the thoughts. It's time to use a method to figure out, okay, what is happening here? And I love to teach people how to use maps. I think the best way to do it is to map out what is happening. There are plenty of ways to do that. But at the end of the day, whether you use a map or not, which we'll get more into, you've got to assess what's going on. You've got to take a look at the energy where it's flowing to. Is it flowing out of you? Is it flowing to you? Is there a place where it needs to get to and it's just not going? It's so important to not skip this step. And I find that normally when people are working on being stuck, it's the step that they do skip.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why they don't get anywhere. They start having maybe very intense or rapid fire thoughts or emotions that push them kind of compulsively to do something about this. I made air quotes for the people
Mm-hmm.
just listening. And so they begin to randomly throw action just to try and decompress that built up energy. They're trying to get relief. And no shame to anyone at all if you're doing this. We all do it. We all have times where we just feel this way and we just want it to stop. And so we just start doing in and everything we can think of to make it stop. If you really want it to stop, though, you got to work smarter, not harder, because as you're expending energy trying to make it stop and you're choosing maybe an unwise path to do that, one that's not very strategic, you're just depleting yourself even more. So now you have even less energy, so that as you feel this block, now you're even more stuck. Now you're even more frustrated. And this is where we get into this very cyclical pattern of stuck and frustrated.
And then, like you said, you're defeating the purpose because you're even more depleted because now you're taking all the energy you have left. It's already not flowing
Ex-
correctly to do whatever.
exactly.
So if I kind of can emphasize with what you just said when people are hesitant or like to skip that step because sometimes it's really hard to identify, well, what is it? Where is it coming
Hmm.
from? What's the root cause? So if that's where you are, what are some techniques maybe that one could find out what the actual root cause of the problem is?
So I like to tell people, let's start with not finding the root cause.
Uh-huh.
Everyone loves to do that. We get into root cause analysis, it's a very popular topic. I have people that would show up in therapy all the time. Day one, I've got to find the root cause. The reason why I don't want to start there, why I don't want to have you start there or anyone start there, is because our brains are very good at protecting us. And usually the root cause is something that feels very scary. Scary to the point that your brain, if you try to go busting in there with swords drawn to try and figure it out, it's just going to build a bigger block. And the last thing I want you to do is have to deal with a bigger block. So maybe we let that go
Mhm.
and we say, hey, what is something related to this stuck that would be easier for me to find and easier for me to work with? And that's why I point people to these energy flows, because energy is pretty easy to spot, especially when we map it. If I get out, which I know I said I was going to have visuals. We're just going to use my hands today. Okay. It's the best visual ever. And I'm going to describe this very well for those of you who cannot see this. If I imagine myself as a big circle, right? And I imagine points coming out of that circle where I am expending my energy. Okay. What if I draw this? What if it's a big arrow toward my job? What if I'm putting a lot of energy into my job right now? With a really thick arrow here that I'm making, showing how much energy I'm putting into this work. What if I look back at that drawing and I'm drawing the energy back from work? Let's imagine work is another circle up here. I've got it up here in the corner, and I'm drawing the energy I'm getting back from work. Some of you are probably laughing and going, there's not even energy coming back from work. Okay.
Mhm.
I'm not here to tell you that you should or should not be getting energy back from work. I'm here to say that if that's the case, all right, well, there's a place where we're spending energy and we're not getting any back. What other circles might I have orbiting around me like I'm a big planet? So maybe there's a circle up here in another corner that represents your relationships. Maybe it's your relationship with your significant other or your best friend. How much energy is being given over into that? And how much energy are you getting back? Or is there a total block and there's nothing there at all? Or is there tension and we're getting a lot of negative energy because things just aren't working well right now? If I am able to plot out all the different points, like on a piece of paper, or maybe a lot of folks have tablets and you can get out your stylus and start drawing these things. Where is my energy flowing to? So I draw this arrow from myself towards that thing, and it can be a person, a place, a situation, a, a thing like housework. That's something that a lot of us have to do. Okay. Putting energy into things all the time, like I said earlier, it's always leaking out somewhere. It's time to start paying attention to, and a great way to do it is to draw it so you can actually see it. Where is this energy going? And then what things are pouring energy back into me? I draw those arrows back at me. If you really want to get fancy about it, like I mentioned earlier, you can make those arrows of energy thicker if there's more being poured out towards something, or very thin if there's very little being put back towards something. That way you can very visually see what's happening. What I find when I do maps with people, whether I'm doing them clinically or non-clinical setting, you will pretty much instantly see what the problem is. It's really cool. Um, we call it eco mapping. For my nerds like myself who love to look up these kinds of things, eco mapping generally involves mapping out your environment, your people, your places, your situations, and how that energy flows within those systems. You can tell where the system has problems pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So once you've done that, right, that's going to bring us to our next part. So we've hit, because I'm saying we got 3 A's we're going over today. That first one is assessment, going in and making that really clear picture. And then we get to look at, okay, well, what are we going to assign ourselves to do about it? And from there, I kind of tell people, if you're looking at an energy imbalance or a block, like let's say, we'll use me as the example. Like when I was talking about learning that I liked lifting heavy things earlier,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that at first. I just knew that I needed to do something with my body. And so if I were drawing a map, I would have maybe this exercise domain, if you want to call it that. For some people, that might be a triggering word. There's maybe movement or something that resonates better with
Mm-hmm.
them. It could just be health, if you want to relate it to health or well being. If I were drawing that map and I'm holding up a circle here in the corner and I'm holding my other circle representing me over here, I would put a broken line, just a little staggered line between these two things because there was no connection between me
Uh,
and that part of my well being. It wasn't there. So if I'm looking at a map of myself and I'm looking at all this energy that I was expending at the time toward my work, toward my partner, toward all the things that I do, and how I really wasn't getting a lot back, I needed to see, well, where could I make some easy wins here to get more energy pointing towards me here in the middle? Oh, well, I guess I could actually try some different things to see if there's something that I like. So, me making that decision in real life, kind of doing that mapping in real time, allowed me to go, okay, here's an easy win for me. Here's an easy place. Let me try going walking. Oh, well, I live here in the hill country in Texas. So that really doesn't work for part of the year because it's
mm-hmm.
way too hot for me to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so walking's one thing I could use, but that's not everything. Oh, let me try doing these yoga videos. Oh, okay, well, the cats keep jumping on me and I have some sensory stuff going on. And so I don't really want to do that. Well, rather than give up, let me try something different till I hit that thing that established that connection for me. And now I've got energy pouring into the system. Yes, I expend energy to get that, but I will tell you, for as hard as I work with those weights, it pours way more into me than I put into it because the after effects of it, not only immediately after, but for probably an entire 2 days or so after, with the mood and energy bump that I get, are fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So again, when you make your map and do your assessment, you're going to see places where you need to do work. I'm talking about looking at the easy places to go first, right? Because we're not talking about going straight for root cause. If your biggest energy drain right now is your job or your relationship, probably you don't need to just try and jump in and think that you can change that immediately. That's where a lot of people get stuck. We talk about throwing this random action in.
Yeah.
Oh, let me go change my job. Let me go change my relationship. Let me go have an argument. And then I've done it. I could laugh too. I know I've done it.
Right.
It doesn't work. So we're looking for easy wins. And for those bigger things, this is where I talk about working with someone. When you're looking at something that's really complex, like a relationship or like a job, this is where getting your friends, getting your coaches, your mentors, your therapist, even whoever you work with to help you look at these maps and take apart, okay, well, how do I work on this really big one?
Mhm.
That can be really, really helpful because it does take some skill over time to be able to break those things down and find the smaller places that you can work within it. I also want to mention that when you're doing your mapping, sometimes it's helpful to break a complex area into its own map.
Mhm.
So let's say we're talking about work and I'm really, really stressed at work. Okay, well, maybe that's because my boss is really toxic. All right, I see there's a lot of energy problems there. However, I can't change people. People cannot be a target for change. The only person I can change is me.
Mhm.
What I can do though is maybe look at some other things that are on that map. Maybe there's a paperwork domain on that map. Maybe there's a weekly meeting domain on that map. Things that take energy, things that could give energy. How can I change the energy flow between those things so that even though I can't change this toxic boss over here, I can at least give myself some more energy, space, and peace by making a positive change in the energy there.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I know I've said a lot.
It almost sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the things that probably pertain just yourself are can be simpler to tackle than things that involve other people around you, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, relationships are complicated.
Uh-huh.
We know this. That's why people are always making a new program or a book or something about relationships because they are complicated and it's difficult to wade through by yourself. Again, the brain is tricky. It loves to protect us. We can have a lot of blinders on when we're trying to do relationship work. So, working on things that you have control over, which is you, hopefully, you don't think you have control over another person. I call that manipulation straight out. Manipulation is never a good strategy. It's just going to get you in a lot of trouble, honestly.
Yeah. And I also think that people who are trying to change other people are, again, wasting energy on something that they could
Yes.
reflect on themselves. Change your, I always say, we would have world peace if everybody would just start, sweeping in front of their own front door.
Yes. Well, and that can be a hard pill to swallow sometimes. Like, I want to validate when we are around toxic people or when we just know that we're in a mismatch. So maybe my coworker, for instance, isn't a toxic person, but our just personality and work style is so different that it causes clashes. It can be a really hard pill to swallow to hear, well, really, you just need to work on you. But at the end of the day, that's what's going to work. So it's okay. And I'm going to hold up two hands here. There's this tension of opposites that we like to talk about in therapy. We have to learn and practice how to hold opposing things together and not be so black and white about it. It's not my fault or your fault.
Mhm.
It's not my fault or their fault. They've got some things going on that I cannot change. I have things that I can change. I can hold these things together and find some peace because I'm going to get energy, motivation, and peace by working on my stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And out of experience, what you said just reminded me of something when we talk about the relationships of other people around us and wanting to either change them or kind of dwell in our reaction to them because this person just annoys me. And it's usually always the same
Hmm.
type of person, right? That makes you cringe or whatever, just because they don't line up with your maybe personality, energy, feel, whatever. I'm telling you right now, these people keep coming back in my life over and over and over and over again.
Okay.
Why? Because I'm not learning the lesson. I have not worked on myself on how to deal and accept that person just as much as the next. And that's why they come back to me because I need to learn the lesson. for myself and I need to adjust. So, yeah,
Yeah.
when
Well,
it
you bring up a fantastic point, though, for the mapping, because we can get really lost in our heads.
Mm,
It's a difficult, complicated place to navigate. If I'm able to draw out these energy flows between people, between situations, if I begin to notice a pattern, it goes right to your point. Oh, look, here I am pouring a lot of energy into XYZ again and not getting anything back. Ooh, what's up with that?
mhm,
Gives you pause for thought. I love to recommend that people do journaling alongside doing mapping. It's great to go back and take a look at a map and just ask yourself good questions. And if you get stuck on, well, I don't know what a good question is, ChatGPT is a great one to ask. It will totally tell you some questions to ask yourself. And again, reach out to people. Like, don't do this work by yourself. We're not saying you have to grab someone right this very second. As you work, though, when you begin to notice the places where adjusting and crafting the energy is more difficult, maybe you need someone who's a more practice crafter.
uh-huh,
I mean, if you've never done it before, how do you know how to do it? You're going to do it the best that you can, and that's good. It's a great way to start. After you get started, it's time to seek a practice crafter. With me in weightlifting, yeah, I could lift weights to a point, but I tell you what, I had to have someone teach me how to lift heavy weight or I'd hurt myself.
yeah,
I'm not saying you're necessarily going to hurt yourself making a map, but I'm sure someone surely could, and I don't want them to.
yeah. And again, I can always only speak from personal experience and watching other people. When you get into these depths of your thinking and reacting and how you interact with the world around you, and you want to then change something within your own field, it naturally excavates things. I love that word, excavating. I learned that
Yes.
in a self-help course. Here we go. I need
Hmm.
teachers too, and mentors. And when it excavates it, it hovers. And you need to know what to do next, because if you don't get it completely cleared out, it's going to be very difficult to run around with something that you were not aware of maybe a week ago, and out of a sudden you are, and now it hovers on the surface constantly, and you now need to follow through and not just leave it there, because if you leave that there, it kind of interferes with everything you do all day long.
Well, it's taking energy.
Yeah.
If you drew it out on the map, even if it's nebulous and you don't know what it is, it's okay to draw you a nice little nebula cloud on the map. There's this thing, I'm not quite sure what it is, but it's there. So if you're a very somatic person, you'd be like, I don't know, I feel this thing in my shoulder and it's there and it won't leave me alone. Just name it shoulder, put it on the map. It's taking your energy, whether it's through pain, distraction, um, confusion, fog, all kinds of ways that these things can manifest themselves. But going back to the beginning, when I talked about people having to line up with what they love, to adjust and craft this energy in a new way, we've got to get new, fresh, revitalizing energy into the system. And that usually involves either getting connected with something that pours into you because you're disconnected from it, or increasing the connection that you need with the things that you love that pour back into you. What I specifically do a lot of is get people just doing more of those things. There's this uh, nifty fact from occupational sciences where they learned that if you intentionally pursued doing what you love in a strategic way. So, not randomly. Like, I'm not just gonna go to the swimming pool more just because I like being at the swimming pool. That will help you to a point. Okay. But if I start going to the swimming pool because I've decided that I'd really like to figure out, I don't know, how to swim back and forth across this thing 5 times without having to stop. Okay. This doesn't have to be exercise related. This is just for an example here. I've attached a goal to it. and I really love the pool and I really love to swim. So, if I actually start pouring into that, what this occupational science has found is that this not only pours positive change into the actual activity, but it spills over into things outside of the actual activity. So it can provide spillover effects, is what they call it. It can also excuse me, words. It can also provide compensation effects,
Uh-huh.
which is what they call it, which is where we're able to compensate for things that maybe we're not getting from other domains. This is a really big deal because let's say, I don't know, I'm just in a relationship or something where I'm not really feeling seen or heard. And I need more of that in my life. Well, if I start playing a game, I love video games. So if I start playing a video game where I'm interacting with people, or maybe even a tabletop game where I'm interacting with people and I'm feeling seen or heard, no, it doesn't fix my relationship. But you know what? I'm not going to be as angry about not being seen or heard
Uh-huh.
because I'm going to get some compensation effects from that. So now when I do decide to do the relationship work, maybe I'm not as raw and angry and frustrated. I'm still going to have some of those feelings because, yeah, there's probably things in the relationship where those feelings may make sense. But let me come to the table to work having adjusted my energy, having crafted the flow in a way that allows me to do the work rather than just be stuck with it. You talked
Yeah.
about that thing that's just hovering and it won't let me go. Let's find a way to let that move on.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Is it when you do the mapping, do sometimes things come up that are more a behavior? So it's not a person, it's not work, it's not a situation, but it's more like things like, oh, I overthink all the time. Could that find a place on the map?
What I would recommend that people categorize that as is a type of energy.
Uh-huh.
So if you want to do some journaling or some other drawing, because this is freestyle, you draw this however you want, what resonates with you. I give simple ways to do it, do what works. It might make sense for someone who recognizes that overthinking is a major energy drain for them to maybe label some of their arrows in some way or make a note next to one. Oh, a lot of this is overthinking. Oh, I see this a lot with parents who are coming stressed out and they find themselves overthinking about their child's safety or whether or not they're feeding them healthy foods or have they done did we do the correct bedtime routine? I don't want my child to have the same trauma I had. All these concerns that they have and they wind up in spirals of overthinking about it. That's energy. If you're thinking about it, you're spending energy. If it's taking up rent-free space in your head, you are spending energy on it. Energy can be physical, it can be mental, it can be emotional. You can differentiate between those on a map if you want to, but you don't have to. It's up to you how detailed you want to make it. The key is just to capture that the energy is flowing and to be really honest about it.
Yeah. I can see now why this is the most important step that no one should skip because now
No.
that we're talking about this, I is like, yeah, I don't even know where to go without this map now.
Yeah. Well, in all honesty, like I could probably talk for 3 hours with like whiteboards and go on and
Uh-huh.
this can be really in depth. And I'm sure there are probably some people hearing this and feeling overwhelmed just hearing about it. And so, I want to be clear, this can be super simple. Yes, you can break it up into all these other things, but we're not trying to go for the root cause. Right now, we just want a really good map. Where is it going? Is it going over into people? Is it going over into tasks? Is there an even balance here? If you're stuck, I'm imagining there's not. I've never met a stuck person whose energy flow in and out was balanced. And that doesn't mean, right, that the balance is supposed to be perfect between individual people, tasks, or things. So let's say, for instance, you're a caregiver to an older parent. If you're a caregiver to that person, there's no way that they can pour back to you the
Mhm.
amount that you're putting into them. And so the goal is not to find a way to get more out of them. No, again, the goal is to connect to other things that are going to recoup some of that energy, to get more of that energy flow into you, because we recognize that with this particular relationship, it's going to be imbalanced.
Yep.
The maps are great for that. It helps you recognize where the imbalances are, gets you to question, is this a relationship that could be more balanced or not? Is this a task that could give me more or not? It allows you to make adjustments in individual areas. If you imagine little spigots of water
Mhm.
that you could turn on the flow heavier or turn back the flow. Or maybe you're expending energy to something that needs a broken line and needs to be cut off.
Yeah. Gosh, that is great. And I am a very visual person, so this is gold for me because I'm envisioning all of this and how clear it makes this. And probably I can envision that somebody who's making a map has multiple aha moments during this exercise. So that's
Absolutely.
yeah.
Typically, when I work with people on them, their eyes get really big
Yeah.
because they start telling me things and I usually just start drawing it out for them, kind of take that off because they're coming to me, especially in the therapeutic space. They're very, very stressed. I start drawing it out, I start showing it to them, their eyes get real big and they're like, "Oh, I didn't realize that was happening." Like, "Yeah, that's what's happening." And then when you realize it's happening, well, the next challenge is not to be judgmental about it. Okay, that's not gonna get us anywhere. One thing I wanna do for those who are feeling overwhelmed hearing all of this and have a map spinning around in their head, that would probably be me if I were on the outside. Um, I made a guide for your listeners. It's going to be free. The link will be in the show notes so that you can go there. It's going to walk you through how to make a map step by step. I've even got a template in there if you want to use it. I know I reference planets. I like planets, so I made it kind of look like planets with stars and everything around it. You don't have to use my template, but it gives you something to get started. Because I imagine if you were attracted to this topic on this podcast, that maybe you're listening and you're not going to take everything in and you would really like to just be able to look at something.
Mhm.
So we'll have that available for you.
That is fantastic. Thank you so much, Jen. Because yeah, I'm envisioning myself already making something that looks like this and wanting to do this exercise, and that's going to be a great guide because even with journaling, I sometimes like what you just said. I need these prompts to just get it going. I don't need 15 prompts, but I need like one or two in order to realize, ah, yeah, okay, got it. And then things usually unfold by themselves. But sometimes sitting in front of a blank page can be, even though it's a blank page, that can be overwhelming.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So let's say you mapped it out, right?
Mhm.
What's next?
So you want to pick one spot to start changing. And we've talked about this a little bit. You want to pick a spot, again, that's not the most emotionally charged spot there, not the most complicated spot there, one that would be easiest to do something with. For most people, I find that's going to be increasing a connection to something they already enjoy, that's already established, or making a connection with something that they enjoy and it's become disconnected. So let's say someone really loves to read and somehow, some way, whoa, they really haven't sat down and read a book in a year. The last thing they read was they just become obsessed with reading articles online about whatever their problem is. Y'all, that's not enjoying reading. That's take it back to something you like. So that doesn't mean go check out a self help book from the library. That means get something you really enjoy. Now, if you enjoy nonfiction more than fiction, that's okay. But get something that's not going to get you in your head thinking about what your problem is. Go
Mhm.
enjoy reading about Rob Lowe or something. He's got a fantastic biography, by the way. Um, Somebody fun like that that you would really enjoy if you're going to do like nonfiction. Um, But if you love fiction, pick the most potato chip, non-stressful, non-meaningful thing that you can find. Please quit trying to make everything so serious. Like,
Yeah.
that's part of the problem.
It's totally funny because our mutual friend, Aaliyah, she was the first one ever to mention this term to me, potato chip book. And I said, a what? Oh, a potato chip book. You don't know what that? I'm like, I don't know what that is. Can you please explain? And she said, well, it's it's a fiction book that you can just shut off your brain. It's no
Mhm.
heavy reading. It's very light. It just you probably read that book within a week, and that's your potato chip book. And I thought that is fantastic, and that's
Yes.
exactly what I needed because yeah, I was the one textbooks, nonfiction textbooks. I need a. I thought if I take the time out of my day, and I'm not trying to derail this, by the way, but if I need, and maybe somebody can identify themselves with what I'm going to say. If I take the time out of my day to sit on a couch and read a book, then it has to have multiple purposes. So I need to learn something. It's something that I can
Mhm.
apply just for enjoyment and pleasure. Absolutely not. Right. Because then I felt guilty. So I had to shake that and really read those which she gave me potato chip book, and I thought this is amazing. My brain can just shut off and go into this imaginary world for a little bit and not work, right? The brain can just
Mhm.
not work anymore so hard. So yeah, I love that example because I can see myself in that example.
Well, and even as you spoke about it, I don't know if you felt it in your body or as you talked about, well, it had to meet this criteria in order for me to read it. Like, I just heard the pressure.
Mhm.
I heard the energy flow and how intense it was and how much was going there to the point which is what of course you wouldn't even want to read at that point
Yeah.
because I mean the energy flow it sounded like someone turned on a fire hose.
Hmm.
And how cool is it when we can craft that energy to be more like a gentle flow? Like if you go up to drink from a water fountain, if we're talking about getting energy, we don't want the fountain that's going to shoot up in the air and hit us in the face and, get us all wet. No, we need something that we can actually drink from. And that's the whole point of crafting these different connections to bring the energy in, get it in a way that we can actually take it in, enjoy it, and get something from it.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Mhm.
So that's my biggest recommendation. I tell people go small, go simple. That can be difficult for some people. If you're a person who likes a lot of detail, gets into perfectionism, maybe tends to nerd out. I do that a lot. I see connections between a lot of things, and next thing I know, the map is taken up the whole room. That's the sign.
Mhm.
No, But if you were to, I mean, think about it. If you're trying to go somewhere, if you're in a car, oh, we'll get old school. I'll totally date myself. I remember being a kid and my dad would have us get out the map
Mhm.
to help him get somewhere.
Mhm.
Can you hold the map for me so that we can figure out where we're going? Well, if I'm going to hold the map and help dad figure out where he's going, I can't open the whole thing out to take up the whole front seat of the car.
Yeah.
That's not going to help me get where I'm going.
Mhm.
I need to be focused on just one point, and it needs to be a point where I want to go, which is why, again, I'm going to say it's got to be something you're interested in. I highly recommend linking to reigniting, igniting, growing your connection to things that you already know feed your spirit,
Yeah.
feed your mood, feed your general clarity and energy. It's what's going to get you the most bang for your buck. But again, it's typically going to be lighter things that are going to do that for you. I used to make a joke with some of my therapy clients that sometimes people don't do things because they think it's too simple
Mhm.
and they're convinced. I tell them, I bet if I told you to go stand on a mountain on one foot and hop up and down and recite the alphabet backwards, that you would do it. This is when they wouldn't do their homework out of session,
Right.
which I don't blame them. I've been that person that was too cool to do my therapy homework. That's okay. Been there, done that. But sometimes it seems too simple. If our problem seems so important, shouldn't it demand a complicated fix?
Mhm.
It's so important. It's taken up so much time. I've been spinning around for so long. There has to be this very complicated, intricate ritual that I need to have to do to make this work. And I'm here to say, not as your therapist, right? This isn't clinical advice, but as a therapist, I can tell you it's absolutely wrong. Simpler is better.
Yeah.
And overcomplicating things is a large part of people's problems these days.
Uh-huh.
We live in a complex world. We've gotten used to thinking in very complex ways. We can get drawn to it. It's not the answer.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I master of overcomplicating things, and the simpler the better, but I can see how people are dismissing it because it seems too simple, too non-complicated. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it can seem almost even maybe disrespectful, just to kind of validate some feelings there. When we don't get that type of fix that we want it to be complicated. Because if it's uncomplicated, what does that mean about us? Does that mean we were dumb? Does that mean that we weren't smart enough to figure it out? No, that's not what that means at all. Sometimes though we can internalize it that way.
Yeah. Uh-huh. I have that a lot with anything psychology related things where people say, "Oh, this is because of this." And I go, "That's it? Are you kidding me? That's it?
That's all it is. Yeah.
That's I couldn't figure this." Yeah, that question comes up like I couldn't figure this out myself, but it is because we think that it's because in our head or in my head it's so complicated, everything is so connected and so overwhelming that the answer to it also has to be overwhelming and complicated and almost not earthly anymore. Mhm.
That- exactly. And I can resonate with that as well, which is why I try to be sure and bring it up so that people understand it's a common pitfall. I think it's a symptom of a lot of what's going on in society generally, probably on a global scale, honestly, just because of how much we're being asked to hold in our minds and work with at the same time.
Yeah.
So, disentangling that, connecting to things that are simple is important because how can you learn to work with simple energy if you're always working with complicated energy? You've got
Uh-huh.
to practice. It's okay. And feeling a little awkward while you're doing it, well, if you're new to it, awkward is the price of admission. I promise you'll be okay.
Yes.
Awkward's not going to hurt you.
I love that. Yep. That's what it is.
And I think because I'm looking down at my notes, I want to be sure that when people are looking at their place on the map, look out for traps. If you're getting into all or nothing thinking,
Mm.
that's probably a space where either you don't need to work right now because it's triggering that type of thinking in you, or you're going to need to expand your thinking. You're going to need to think along a spectrum and not just black and white. Powerlessness, if you're getting into I'm powerless, I can't change. Like I'm looking at this map and there's absolutely nothing I can change. That is categorically false. There is always something we can change. If you have drawn a map that is so rigid and undetailed that it has no place where you can make changes, then maybe you've got to look at why you're drawing the map that way. Because there's something that's telling me there's something in there that's afraid for you to make change. And that might indicate if no matter how many times you draw this map, you can't find a place to work, that's going to tell me that I'd recommend you get someone to help you because there's something in there that's scared of change.
Mhm.
The last thing we've kind of touched on this earlier, if you're getting into a blame game while you're making this map, well, if only he didn't do this and she didn't do that, and this job had different hours and this thing did this. See, there's nothing to do with me. It's all this other stuff. You're not open to change, so you can't make any change.
Mm. Mhm. Radical self-responsibility.
I know, right? We have to take responsibility for things, not for the things that we can't control. I can't control the hours at the job or that this person talks to me in this way, that that's their style. What I can control is a lot of other stuff on the map. If I really map a lot of things, I'm going to find so many places where I can do something. And again, don't think that, oh, well, if I go over here and work on, training my dog how to do that trick that I've always wanted to teach them how to do, that's not going to help my life. Yes, it is. Again, you can get caught up in thinking that something has to be directly worked on, like with this very direct, sword in hand, I'm going to fix this right now thing in order to make change. Change is typically much more subtle than that. You teaching your dog how to do a new trick is going to make a lot of changes in you, give you a lot more energy, give you a lot more motivation to continue to do the work, have all kinds of spillover and compensation in ways that you probably don't even understand until it happens.
Mhm. Yeah. It's almost like giving, just being nice to yourself too.
Yeah.
That's,
Compassion's a big deal.
yeah, that's a hard concept for some people to swallow.
Absolutely. I actually had a client fire me one time because I wouldn't stop talking about compassion.
Mm.
And of course, I, as a therapist, am not going to back off of what I know to be true or change practice just because someone doesn't like what actually is true, which is that I don't care what type of therapy someone practices. Compassion is a tool that we have to use as humans in order to be able to have a good life, to have good relationships, to accomplish what we want to accomplish, to be at peace, to find energy, motivation. If people hear nothing else out of this, if
Mhm.
you're like, I don't feel like making a map, then I'm going to say, please go find all the work on compassion and go listen to it
Yeah,
on repeat.
yeah. It's always the same. A lot of these subjects, even on the podcast, they come back to self-worth, self-love, really being compassionate with yourself, and just the way we talk to ourselves, we treat ourselves. It always boils down to that. We are so mean to ourselves sometimes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For anyone out there that struggles with, well, how do I take a compassionate stance with myself? Because you're going to need it when you're doing the mapping and when you're picking where you want to work. Treat yourself the way you would treat a best friend. That's really all it is. If words like self love don't resonate with you, that's okay. I think sometimes people can get trapped in that term because love for them means this particular type of feeling and they don't have that feeling about themselves. That's okay. We can still be compassionate without having a particular love emotion. It just requires you treating you like a best friend. If your best friend came to you and showed you this map or asked you to make a map, how would you do it? How would you talk with them about it? Like if they had this area where you could tell there were a lot of things going on that needed to change, would you yell at them and tell them they were stupid for getting into this position again? Would you tell them they were dumb? Would you question how they could let this happen? I imagine if you're a good best friend at all, you would not talk that way.
Yeah. It's a good reminder, and I love that analogy. I've used that many, many times on other people and myself, because
Mhm.
every time I tell it to somebody else, inside my head I go, yeah, listen to that, Elena, listen to your own words. Yeah.
It's it's normal that it happens. Getting judgmental about the fact that it happens is often a trigger for it to just swell up and overtake us.
Yeah.
We have all kinds of parts and pieces within us, different aspects of ourselves, and they serve different functions, right? Sometimes those functions are at cross purposes with each other or have different personalities. We're not talking about multiple personality disorder. We're just talking about my protector part of me has a really different agenda than my inner child.
Hmm.
Okay. So they're not going to agree with each other.
Yeah.
It's up to me as the regulator of these two to create a safe space for conversation between them. Going a
Mhm.
little deeper than maybe maybe I intend to, but just
Mhm.
it, this is how things work. Yes, we're going to be at odds with ourselves over things. We're not going to get at odds with ourselves by starting a fight.
Yeah. Oh, so good. So, talking about because you talked about the traps, which I think that's very important because I can imagine that at least one of those 3 options could be easily coming up during this whole mapping process, right? So when you have, drawn it out and you do your assessment and you now know, okay, this is where kind of like the energy sucker over here, and this is where energy is coming more towards me. What is the kind of like the ending phase to perfect it to, well, navigate the map kind of?
Okay, so once I've chosen a target, all right, let's say that I look at the map and I recognize that there is a relationship that's not really that important. It's not something I have to give a lot of time and energy into, but it's been taking a lot of my energy.
Mhm.
Example I would hear a lot of was maybe there was someone that had like a toxic parent in adulthood. And this wasn't a cutoff type of situation because oftentimes I'll see situations where it's not we've got to go no contact, but it's still a really tricky and draining situation. So that's something that I might see come up on a map where someone's like, "Oh yeah, I'd really like to use that as a target, but I know I can't change them and I can
Mhm.
only change me. Well, what action could I take here?" I found a lot of those people tend to spend way too much time in communication with that person or letting those people communicate at them. So this becomes as simple as a thing like, oh, wow, I actually have power when I pick up the phone to say, "Hey, mom, I've only got 3 minutes. Yeah, I can talk to you for 3 minutes. Let me know what's going on with dad today." And then they say what they need to say, and it's the same stuff that they normally say that can be really draining. But guess what? I've only done it for 3 minutes now. I haven't done it for 50. And so I've adjusted that flow there. That's a way where if I know there's something that I really like, yeah, it's a relationship. And yeah, I know they said don't get too complicated. Okay, but this isn't even complicated. This is just a me and a boundary situation with communication.
And those boundaries are self-compassion.
Yes,
Mhm.
I got to take care of me.
Yeah.
When if you think of yourself like a tree, there's a wonderful psychologist who also does Buddhist practices. Her name is Tara Brach. And she does wonderful compassion meditations. And in one of her talks leading up to one of these meditations, she talked about being a tree. And I loved her stance that trees don't worry about what they're doing for everything else in the environment. They just work on growing their leaves and getting their water and their minerals and doing their flowers and their acorns and all the things that they do. They're flourishing themselves. And when they flourish themselves, they naturally make a home for the squirrels. They naturally make the acorns for the wasp to put their eggs in. They naturally provide shade for people to walk in. If you're worried about being selfish by doing any of this work and pouring more energy into yourself, I want to absolve you of that guilt.
Yeah.
You doing this work is going to make you show up better in the world, which is going to do better for other people naturally. You're not even going to have to try.
Yeah. And we have so many analogies about that and metaphors, right? You talk about the tree, and then there's the whole thing about the oxygen mask in the airplane, and then there's, oh, you cannot pour
Yes,
out of an empty cup. All of these things remind us, or should remind us, about that we need to take care of ourselves in order to actually be there for other people, because it doesn't work if we can't be all the things if we're not there for ourselves.
exactly. So when you go to these spots on the map and you go with this compassion and you go with the stance of I do have power, I can change something. Small changes matter. Any amount that you change the energy flow on that map, whether it's to you or from you, if it's working in your favor, you have done something good for yourself. You are making progress. That's all that matters. I'll give a small one that really made a huge difference in my work life. I used to work in a hospital in case management. And one of the things that I had to do, and it was at the time just felt like the bane of my existence, I gave so much emotional energy over hating this form that I had to give to people before they discharged. I had to have it signed, given to them, and then I had to take the copy because it had like one of those carbon copy
Uh-huh.
things on it. I had to take that carbon copy and I had to put that carbon copy into a folder in someone else's office down the hall. If I didn't put that carbon copy into that folder, I got in trouble. Now I'm going to tell you, I got a lot of ADHD, and I'm also really drawn to working with people directly. I would rather spend my time talking to patients, talking to family members, working all that stuff, doing all my social work things, rather than pushing pieces of paper.
Uh-huh.
And so I would get really caught up in resentment and anger anytime I would get an email about the fact that your papers weren't turned in. And then it became, if you don't start getting these papers turned in, we're going to have to do something about it. And I thought, okay, I'm going to have to do something about this, not just because I want my job, but I
Right.
actually kind of had this wake up moment of they're not going to change this paperwork policy.
Uh-huh.
This is a giant hospital. I can be resentful all I want to. I can think it's dumb all I want to. It's not changing. What can I do differently? What I did was I went in and I looked at my workflow. And because I have ADHD, for those familiar, we can forget to do things. And that's what I was doing. I would get so caught up in working with people. And I was just leaving that paper task around till the end of the day. And so I task stacked it, which for those that don't know means I made it where anytime I did something else that I knew I was going to do during that day, I automatically made taking those papers down to that folder a part of it
Uh-huh.
so that it automatically got done. And so, me simplifying my workflow, just that simple, taking in, I actually made a little map of my workflow. Where in my workflow is there something I automatically do? How can I add putting this paper onto it so that I know it will happen? Boom, problem solved. Guess what? Wasn't resentful about paperwork anymore. Wasn't getting nasty emails anymore. I mean, I was surprised at how much load it took off of me just being able to take these darn pieces of paper down to
Uh-huh.
this folder. But that's what I want to get across from that is it makes a big difference. And then how am I showing up for patients and families because I'm not resentful? How am I showing up for my coworkers and my boss because I'm not resentful? How open am I to working? How am I showing up at home because I'm not dragging that resentment with me and griping to my husband again about the stupid paperwork? Like I
Yeah.
nipped that in the bud. I'm being a totally different person because of a piece of paper. It really is that simple.
Yeah. And what it reminded me too, I'm going to repeat myself for the fifth, hundredth time, it feels like. But when you were talking about all of these assessments and looking at it, and you're looking at your workflow and you're looking at your energy and where you can actually interject your own power, right? And what you are in control of.
Mhm.
You know, it again boils down to you taking the time to stop and
Yes.
look at it. And I think that's a huge problem because people don't stop. We need to sometimes just stop and look at ourselves and what we're doing to do these assessments. And taking the time to stop, that's also, again, self compassion because I'm taking time. I'm having a boundary. I'm taking time out of the day. I'm making time. I'm not taking time. I should correct myself because that's a myth, right? I am making time for this work and for looking at things, which is a very self loving thing to do.
Yes, and in fact, um, in the map guide that I'm gonna give to everybody, I purposefully put a point about setting aside time and protecting it to do this work.
Uh-huh.
But I'm glad that you bring up that requires a stop. I think that our disconnection that many people have in society to their intuition right now is a huge part of the problem. Our intuition has been screaming and yelling that something needs to happen. When it doesn't happen, the rest of us starts to get involved to create an intervention, right? Because something's wrong, something's wrong, something's wrong. Okay, you're not listening to me. Well, let me start making you feel anxious.
Yeah.
Let me start making your thoughts spin out of control. All of these things that maybe people have been beating themselves up for, they're not things to beat yourselves up for. They're check engine lights. Your check engine light has come on. When that thing comes on red, you're supposed to stop the car. You're not supposed to keep driving and complaining that the check engine light is on.
I'm just gonna take a Sharpie and I'm gonna go over it so I don't see it anymore. Yep.
I know someone that put electrical tape over theirs.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
recommend.
Mhm. Does that surprise me? Yeah. That's what we do because we live in a hustle, 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 stressful world and have this illusion because it's an illusion, right? That
Mhm.
when we do all of this hustle, that's good. That gets rewarded. Actually, it does not.
No, it doesn't. And the more you step out of it, the more you'll be able to step out of it. The more you do it, the more you can do it. So, yes, I will acknowledge and validate that if you decide after this ends today to sit down and start making a map and you find it difficult to concentrate and all you can do is 3 minutes, you did 3 minutes.
Right.
And tomorrow, if you want to try again, you might do 3 minutes again, you might do six. Any amount of time that you make for it is going to help you make more time for it. And the more you flourish yourself and adjust your energy, the more time you're going to have. You're going to feel like, for those who haven't felt it, like I'm excited for you. I literally can't wait. You're going to have such an expansion of how you think and how you feel. Just taking a breath feels better when you start to get relief, when the things start to unstick. But like you said, you got to make time for it. You got to stop. You got to go, okay, what can I do here? And sometimes the doing is a not doing. I want to be clear when I say doing, I think we can get caught up in being human doings instead of human beings.
Mhm.
Sometimes the answer is, and I imagine most people are going to be able to put this on their map, they are disconnected or not heavily connected to taking time to just do nothing
Yeah.
except be.
Yeah. Which is already doing something. I mean, you know, yeah. I really love how you put this in directions. It's almost like a handbook, like do this and then you do this and then you do this. I mean, there is things that you have to do yourself, but it's an outline of how to go about this because so many times, especially in our emotional world, our thinking world, there's all these concepts, but nobody usually ever comes up with these things on, well, okay, what do I do about it? Like again, this earthly thing to do. I know I might know what I'm feeling or experiencing, but I don't know the next step. And you did just that. You created um a very easy to follow guidebook on, well, this is what we're going to do. And then you are going to go and have an outcome of it. And I'm sure that mapping these things is getting the ball rolling that will lead to a whole nother world of, looking at yourself, looking at your behaviors and your thinking patterns and all of these things. Because or I believe that once you're starting to tune into these things, you are like what you just said about our intuition, you're retapping back into that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a beautiful thing. And we need more of this because people need these practical. It's just
Mm-hmm.
practical. People need practical things to do, not these
Absolutely.
abstract concepts all the time.
We need practical things to do and we need fun things to do.
Yeah.
Again, I I think about what the why so serious? Like it's time to maybe have some fun.
Yeah.
And you can do that with this. If you like gel pens and stickers and fancy notebooks, whatever you want to do it. Just don't overthink it while you're doing it, okay?
Yeah.
This isn't a perfectionistic thing. It's for you. It's not for anyone else to look at but you, except people that you know are trustable with things that you make. So let's not get into judging how good it looks. Let's get into how much fun we can have and what we can get out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just like what you said, when you have fun with it, you're more prone to do it.
Hmm.
It's the same with the exercise routine. If it's something you enjoy, then you're going to do it. You're not going to stick with something that you absolutely loathe.
Exactly. And why would you?
Yeah, doesn't give you anything back, right?
No. A bunch of grief and, and
Hmm.
people having to listen to me complain and they don't want to hear that. Yeah.
Right, right. Well, Jen, anything else that we didn't touch on today?
I think we have covered it well. I think I know maybe people listening will say like, you've said a lot because we have.
Hmm.
I remember when you and I talked before this and we talked about what the subject matter was going to be. I was like, this is really big.
Yep.
So if you're someone listening to this and this felt like, whoa, I don't even know if I've downloaded 12% of this to my brain at this point, that's
Yep.
okay. Bookmark this, come back, listen to it again. You'll probably hear something you didn't hear
Yep.
before. That's normal. That's how the brain works. If you were listening to this in a distracted space because you had no choice, that's just how you had to do it today. Come back to it. That's that's why I love this media because it sets up a way for people to come
Yep.
back and revisit and reuse, which is what you're going to do with your maps. One map's going to lead to another map. Then you're going to want to compare the map and you're going to see how it's changed.
Hmm.
It's constantly evolving, just like you are.
Yes. And every day is a little different. And I do believe that every time we listen to something and we pick up something else, that is the thing you're supposed to hear today. That's your
Hmm.
message, you know? And yeah, you're right. It's here for viewing and listening pleasure forever. It doesn't go away. And you can, this is the nice thing about this too. You can put it on 2 times speed. You can slow it down. You can pause it. You can stop it. You can do whatever you need to do to make this accessible and usable and practical and whatever you need in that moment today. So I really, I have sometimes I have I don't know how to express my gratitude. I'm really
Oh,
really thankful that you came on and yes, made this very big, overwhelming, huge, intimidating concept so easily understand the way you explained it and the way you walked us through this very practical application of the mapping and all the things you're going to supply us with. And it's really so incredibly worthy to have this, right? It's so yeah, I don't know. Wonderful for people to have that because it's just one of those things that I don't think exists enough.
I agree. And that's part of what draws me to do what I do. It's part of what draws me to do it in a way that's not clinical. Because, yeah, I love doing therapy with people, but I can only meet one person at a time. And how many people can I actually talk to in a year if I'm doing therapy?
Yeah,
This isn't therapy, right?
right.
We're not having to talk about your childhood and everything and then pull that apart. However, it still gets you the same changes that a lot of people are actually really coming to therapy for. And we're going to be honest, a lot of people are coming to therapy because they want coaching,
Mhm,
and therapists aren't coaches. We're not allowed. When I have that hat on, I'm not allowed to tell you what to do.
mhm.
I'm not allowed to tell you how to do it. The space where we can come forward and like disseminate this to more people than I could ever reach, just being, in my little telehealth bubble is fantastic. I am grateful that you open up the space so that more people can hear it, so that more people can use it. Because, like you said, if more people just stop and took the time and could just adjust their own area, wouldn't the world be a great place? This is, I know you and I are like minded in this. Like,
Yeah,
we just want to help. We're doing the work ourselves. We want other people to be able to do it too and make it. You don't have to go to therapy to do this work.
yeah, yeah. And I think what you're just saying too, it's again, we're doing, what you're doing is you do both things, because with your psychotherapy, you're excavating these things, you're bringing the stuff
Mhm.
up. But then with this and the coaching and the mapping and all those things, right? Working with people, now we know how to deal with what we just brought up and work through it. So we're cleared of it almost, right? And we can live a better life. They go
Exactly.
together. We need both. We need both. We can't have just one.
They're
Yeah.
both valuable. There's just like I said, that a lot of times people get out of therapy and then there's not really something for them to go
Mm-hmm.
to. I'm calling it my subclinical care, right? Ways that we can do things with people that doesn't necessarily require therapy. Or if they've been in therapy, they can utilize, or if they're in therapy and they want to take it to therapy, they can utilize. But by itself, yeah, it's not therapy. You don't have to worry. We're just making maps and having fun.
Right. And it's going to do something. It's going to
Mhm.
change things. And sometimes those small changes lead to other changes and to just having all these aha moments during the process, which, yeah, it's just like you're like kicking the bolster a little bit and then it has a snowball effect.
Absolutely.
That's a beautiful
That's the
thing.
goal.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jen, for being on the show today. It was such a pleasure. Everything y'all need today is in the show notes. Please go look at this and print it and or do push it into your, I don't know, Canva or whatever you need to do to utilize this and have fun with it. Get creative. You do not have to be artistic. Just enjoy and do whatever you want to do. Thank you so much, Jen, for doing
It's
all of
my
this.
pleasure.
Yeah, and for breaking this down for our listeners and me. I learned so much today. So I'm just glad that I learned something. And this is great. So all right, y'all. See y'all next week. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope you enjoyed. You can give it a thumbs up, you can give it a review, you can share it with somebody you think might resonate with this. Have a great day. See you next time.